Hello everybody and welcome to the Robert H. Wild True Crime Show. Tonight we do have a theme again. Oh, hello Ditch, good to see you. Hello Foxy, good to see you too. Hello to everybody in chat. Well, yeah, I'll sort that. Hang on. We have a theme tonight which is technological firsts. So we're going to do a real historical classic, which, you know, over the years you may have come across, but there's been some very modern developments on that. Modern developments that don't necessarily reflect... Oh yeah, Ditch is asking, is the cat cam set up? The cat cam is set up, but the cat is not in here at the moment. We're going to do this one without Polly, our mascot, because Polly likes to sit on things and walk around, and there is every chance that the stream would end very early with one misplaced paw, so we're going to work on that. Let me show you. I can show you. So this should work. There's some bottles in the way, but this is a little padded area where Polly normally sits, but Polly does like to sit here and on buttons, so I think it would be rude in my early days as a streamer to have to just disappear halfway through when Polly decides it's time to press some keys. But we will get her on. Hey Kat, nice to see you. Hey Welsh. It's funny, Ditch. It's a good thing you've actually mentioned cats, because this. So the first story is a historical classic about technological advancement. The second story is a modern story about the future of certain types of forensic evidence, and it involves cats. And if you're a cat lover, you really need to hear this story. And I assure you, no cats are in any danger. In fact, the cats are arguably solving the crime. And if you want to know how that's true, and I'm not just completely insane saying cats solve crime, you'll find out later. But yeah, they do. You'll find out. Yeah, cats. It's true. Yes. Yeah. There's a Sherlock Holmes. Yep, that's a good one. I think Sherlock Holmes is the famous one. Famous pun. Yep. Well, good, thanks. Yep, great to see you earlier. So normally we do a content warning because this is a true crime show. It's not really suitable for young people. There are murders and sometimes assaults and all sorts of things. So discretion is advised. In terms of tonight, yeah, there are some murders. But there are also lots of cats in a bit, so it will be cute but horrible, but cute. Unless you're a murderer with a cat, in which case I'm about to give you something entirely different to worry about. But hopefully you're not in chat. If you're, I'm just digging a hole now, aren't I? Okay, spoiler: the cat did it. No, well. I won't spoil it, but the spoiler is the opposite to the cat did it. The cat solves it. And again, everyone's sat there going, "How does a cat solve a murder?" Well, you'll find out. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive initially into Dr. Crippen. Oh yeah, do they carry the DNA? Yeah, this is what we're going to discover. There are two ways that cats can have and can solve crime, and it does involve DNA. But I will hold fire on explaining precisely how. But I will tell you, cats are genuinely at the cutting edge of forensic science. I mean, obviously. If there's anyone in chat that doesn't like cats, you're sat there going, what on earth are we talking about? Well, yeah, you know, this is... Cat, yeah, you clearly have, yeah. Speaking of murder documentaries, I've got one. I've got a story coming up where there is a brilliant documentary, and I've actually found things out that have happened since the documentary that are even more remarkable than the documentary. So I feel I can really add something to that. So that will probably be Thursday or Friday. Yes, it is. The auto mod is a work in progress. Obviously, doing things in all caps is fine. I need to turn that off. Okay, so let's get into Dr. Crippen. I mean, if you've grown up in Britain over the last sort of, 100 years, you've heard of Dr. Crippen. So he has a major place, though, in the history of crime and policing, as he is the first person who was caught using what was then a brand new piece of technology. And we'll find out what that piece of technology was. However, in recent years, there's been a bit of a question about whether he actually did it. And I'm going to, throughout this case, I'm going to refer to him as having done it, because I'm fairly convinced he has, and he was convicted of it. And attempts to disprove it failed from a legal perspective. And you'll find out that the attempts to disprove him that didn't actually, I don't think they've actually helped make him look any more innocent. I think the attempts to disprove him have inadvertently misdirected this into making him look just as guilty, but in a slightly different way. So we'll get to that. From the moment of his, the police started searching for him. Oh, yep, Cat, I will have a look at that. We will have a look at that. So, from the moment the police started searching for him, he became a subject of media fascination, and over the years, a real model for British crime reporting, British crime writing. And as you'll see, a technological first. So, the Crippen case takes place mostly in Britain. Hawley Harvey Crippen was born in Michigan in 1862. He was the only child to survive of merchant Myron Crippen and Andress Crippen. They were a well-off family. There are places named after this family in America. There is a Crippen Street that you can go down. He studied first at the University of Michigan Homeopathic Medical School in 1883. Yes, and if you're in chat going, a homeopathic medical doctor, don't worry, we'll get back to that. We are aware of the problem with that. We'll get back to that. His connection to London begins now, because he left before graduating and spent some time in London at the Hospital of St Mary of Bethlehem. This sounds nice, but is actually the mental illness hospital that became Bedlam, the most infamous asylum in Britain. Crippen soon returned to the US and graduated in 1884 from the Cleveland Homeopathic Medical College, which, was the thing then. And again, we'll get back to that. He was a small, quiet man, glasses and a moustache. He spent a small time in Detroit performing homeopathy. He moved to New York and started studying eyes, and graduated from the New York Ophthalmic Hospital. He married a student nurse called Charlotte, and the pair had a son called Otto. Sadly, Charlotte died of a stroke in 1892, and even more sadly for Otto, he was sent away to his grandparents, and Crippen moved on without him. He moved to New York, where again he practiced as a homeopath, and he married Cora Turner in 1894, having met her when he treated her for what he would later claim was a miscarriage. This was an unconventional marriage. Cora was a singer on the stage and what we would now call polyamorous. Crippen was a quiet doctor. Cora needed an operation which removed her ovaries, which left her with a scar on her abdomen. This is a vitally important point in the case, that Cora had an abdominal scar, and you'll find out why that's important later. The Crippens had to move frequently to chase opportunities due to worsening economic conditions, moving in and out of Cora's family. They did have a problem. The best areas for Crippen to work in were not the best areas for Cora to perform in, and Crippen always put Cora first. He was then offered a job in London on a large salary. This was too much to turn down, so Crippen moved to London and Cora went to New York to continue trying to make it as an actress. However, her career did not take off and she went to London. By 1897, they were reunited in Britain, and Crippen paid for a show that would star Cora, and it was a complete disaster. Cora blamed her husband. Shortly after, Crippen was sacked from his job distributing medicine. Now, in Britain, his qualifications in homeopathy were not enough to ever call himself a doctor. So he became a manager of the Institute for the Druitt's Institute for the Deaf. And here he started an affair with his typist Ethel and Eve, who was 17. To be slightly balanced, Cora was also having an affair with a showman called Bruce Miller. Any affection the two had for each other had gone. They were simply carrying on for society. And while Cora's musical career had basically collapsed and burned, she had become huge friends with the people in that community. She was a prominent member of the Musical Ladies Guild and then became the treasurer. She had a lot of friends. Crippen changed employers, but he took Ethel with him. With their finances collapsing, the Crippens moved in 1905 to 39 Hilldrop Crescent in Camden Road, Holloway, London. This was a detached 3-storey brick house. It had a cellar. Crippen moved into the desk tool business. Cora had affairs with the lodgers. Cora also began to slate Ethel openly to everybody she could. She knew what was going on. And then that's enough of the context. And then something happens. In my True Crime Dossiers book where I put this, I put murder ? As the subject heading. In respect of the fact that there is some doubt over this, but here I'm just going to go, and now we get into the murder. So on January 15th, 1910, Crippen went into a chemist and attempted to buy a drug called scopolamine. He would have used it in St. Mary's. It was incredibly dangerous, and in order to buy it, they had to order it in, and he had to sign the poisons book, which in that time was an official record of everyone who bought things like this. He left with enough of this drug to kill 20 people, and no apparent need for what he'd wanted. One of the things in defence of Crippen is that if you intended to murder somebody, you might not go and buy the medicine buy the murder weapon in a form in which there would be a really great big signature of yours that you've bought it. On the other hand, nobody's ever really worked out, if he didn't intend to kill somebody with it, why he bought it. Anyway, on January 31st, 1910, after a party at the Crippen residence, Cora was never seen again. That is a complete fact. What happened to her is now going to become the subject of this story. Crippen started to tell people she had gone to America. Somewhat suspiciously, though, Ethel moved in immediately into Crippen's house and started wearing Cora's jewellery. Crippen gave the guild the paperwork back with a note that he said was from Cora, that she had resigned and was going back to America. Shortly after, Crippen used 2 tickets to the Variety Artistes Benevolent Fund charity ball, who took Ethel, who wore Cora's best jewellery, which she had for some reason decided not to take back to America. As Cora's friends, her many friends said, this doesn't really sound believable. Can you put us in contact with Cora? Crippen told them, sadly, she had died in America and been cremated. Yeah. Cora's friends were not taking this. And one of Cora's friends was a woman called Lil Hawthorne. She was an entertainer. And her husband knew the superintendent of Scotland Yard. He put Chief Inspector Walter Dew on the case. Walter Dew had been in the force for a long time, and he had actually found one of Jack the Ripper's victims. So first he spoke to all of Cora's friends to get a good picture of the problem. Then he had Crippen's house searched. Didn't find anything. Then he interviewed Crippen. Crippen said, I made up the story of her dying to prevent the embarrassment of admitting she'd run off with her lover, who was called Bruce Miller. And, oh hello Steve, good to see you in. Dew told Crippen, well, obviously, we've got no evidence anything has happened to her other than what you're saying, but we do need to find her. Oh, don't worry, Steve, no one's ever late. You've not missed the cat story, Steve. I've been teeing the cat story up. I'm afraid the cat story has now been overhyped, and I will only disappoint you, but we'll get to that. So Dew and Crippen wrote an advert that would be put in US newspapers saying, will Cora, or indeed Belle Elmore, as she was called, get in touch. So at this point, the police suspected nothing. And nothing probably would have happened. However, if Crippen had killed Cora, all he had to do was act normal. All he had to do was just carry on as he was. Unfortunately for Mr. Crippen, he panicked at the idea that the police had been in his house, and he did the completely innocent thing of taking Ethel and fleeing the country. Once again, when we get to the bit about is he innocent, well, you do have to wonder why somebody would start fleeing the country. Anyway, so the first thing he did was he sent one of his employees out to buy the complete outfit for a boy. He had no sons. The outfit was for Ethel, who was going to be dressed as a boy. Ethel visited her sister and said goodbye. She didn't know where she was going or if she'd ever been back. Crippen shaved off his moustache. Ethel dressed herself up, and they slipped away. They went by train and boat. They reached Brussels, and then they took the line of the SS Montrose from Antwerp, aiming for Canada. Walter Dew was soon informed that Crippen had seen leaving London with a suitcase. So he was rather suspicious. He sent flyers to all the UK ports and many ports abroad. Find this man. He didn't know yet why they were finding this man, but he was fairly certain that Crippen was running from something. He had another search done on Crippen's home. The second search found nothing. He said, well, no. He's run from something, do it again. The third search found nothing. And he said, look, focus on the fourth search. They found loose bricks in the cellar floor. Under that, clay which had been disturbed. And under that, a human torso. No limbs, no head, no skeleton. The skin had been taken off it. Where the head and the limbs are, nobody ever discovered. But they did discover whoever had buried this body had made a very bad error. If they had put quicklime on the body, it would have eaten it away. Instead, it was buried in slate lime, which preserved it. The police also discovered a loaded gun. Meanwhile, other police had worked out that Crippen had brought a load of boys' clothes, so they sent out messages saying Ethel was probably dressed as a boy. We now return to the body. They found a curler with hair in it, 2 pieces of a men's pyjama jacket which still had the label of the maker, Jonas Brothers Holloway. The hair was the same bleach blonde as Cora's, and the pyjama matched a set of bottoms found in Crippen's room, a set of bottoms that had no matching top other than the one in the cellar. They also detected a quantity of scopolamine in the body, and there was an abdominal scar on the torso. It seemed that this was the fate of Cora. But yet, Crippen could be anywhere in the world by now, and the press were completely gripped by the North London cellar murder. Winston Churchill even asked in Parliament how Crippen had been allowed to escape. Crippen still might not have got away with it. However, now we meet technology. Crippen and Ethel were on the Montrose with Ethel pretending to be a boy. They decided not to mix amongst the mass of third-class passengers and were mixing amongst the better off. This meant the captain of the ship, Henry Kendall, had saw them, and he had heard, via the new telegram system, of a message which had been sent to the ship. Watch out for a man and a young boy acting suspiciously. So he sent a message again by telegram back. Have strong suspicions that Crippen London cellar murder and accomplice are among saloon passengers. The police were able to radio back. We're coming. What the police did was they went to Liverpool and got on the White Star SS Laurentic, which was also heading to the same destination in Quebec, but which was going to get there faster. This information was across all the newspapers. They published daily maps of the ship's position. Crippen, however, was just a man on a boat, and he had no idea that people were literally chasing him. Crippen had also made an inexplicable error. He was American. If he'd sailed to America, he would have benefited from their laws, he would have had to suffer extradition proceedings. He may have had a chance to wheedle his way out. Instead, he'd gone to Canada, which was a British dominion, and they were plying along entirely. Walter Dew got there first and arranged to be taken by boat to the Montrose before it docked. Crippen was invited to see a ship full of pilots boarding, and when he arrived, he found Inspector Dew, who said, "Good morning, Dr. Crippen." Crippen replied, "Good morning, Dr. Dew. Thank God it's over. The suspense has been too great. I couldn't stand it any longer." He was cuffed, and he and Ethel were put on a different ship and sailed all the way back to Britain. Crippen was to be tried in the Old Bailey in 1910 in a trial which took just 4 days. I'm going to get into some details about this. Yes, he's not... I'm calling him Dr. Crippen. Generally speaking, by British standards, he's not a doctor, Ditch, you're quite right. But he is known famously to history as that, so we're just sort of playing along with it. You know. So we're going to take a small break there and have a word of chat. So, what do we think? Do you think he did it? Can we ask what happened to Otto in the end? You can ask. Otto grew up and had a perfectly fine life. He was unaffected, and it's probably a good thing he wasn't with his father. I mean, if you think Crippen killed his wife and ran off, you may think he might have killed a son he didn't really have any interest in. So Otto was fine. Steve says, guilty as a puppy standing next to a pile of poo. Yes. Right, I'm just going to take a little break. I'll be back shortly. Hello everybody, sorry about that. So, chat, I've been having a great discussion about what might be going on here. Kat has suggested, was Crippen protecting Ethel? You'll find out that although there is no one has ever suggested Ethel did this, Crippen went out of his way to protect Ethel. Ethel was actually charged in connection with the murder, and Crippen really went out of his way to make sure that she was considered innocent. Crippen's defence was founded on two key points. One, Cora had left and was in America. And two, yes, there is a body in my cellar, but I didn't put it there. It must have been from the previous owners. Yes. So Crippen testified. Now, I was able to read the entire transcript of the court case for this, and there are large quotations in the relevant True Crime Dossiers book. I'm not going to sit here and read you out 3 hours of court case footage, but if you are interested, they're in the book, or you can find the whole thing if you dig a bit online. So Crippen testified, I had no idea of her leaving me until on February 1st I came home and found she was gone. She had threatened it so often before in her temper that I thought this was the same as usual. Except for a few rings and the jewellery that she had when we married, she had left behind in the bedroom all her jewellery, because of course somebody eloping to America is going to leave behind everything of worth. He said, I did not take any steps to find out where she had gone before she had often threatened to do so. And then I had no reason to think that any charge would be made against me, except the series of wicked lies I had told, began to disturb my mind. All that occurred to alarm me on July 8th, with Jews telling me if he could not find my wife, there would be very serious trouble. So he basically claimed he became afraid that if Walter could not find Cora, and he had no idea where Cora was, the police would make him after him. So he did a sort of get in there first, run away. Now, the defence, argued that Cora had run off. They also argued that the scar, as such, on the body, now having an abdominal scar on your body in the same place that Cora did, was a major part of the prosecution. So the defence decided that the best thing they could do was to trick some eminent experts into saying that there was no scar in a manner that damaged their careers for the rest of their lives. So Reginald Cecil Glyn Wall, a very qualified physician, said, as a result of my examination, I concluded there was no scar. Something he might later come to regret saying. However, other elephants, there were no elephants in this stream, there were cats, there were no elephants. Other evidence included the pyjama top. So Crippen had a pair of trousers that had no top. The top would appear to be buried with the body. So the police researched this. They actually found the people who had made the pyjama top and got them in court to explain that this pyjama set was only on sale during the period of residence of Crippen in the house. There was no way somebody could have bought this top and gone back in time and buried it with the body. Very much my emphasis on that, but you can see the problem. Now you may be wondering, Crippen said Cora had run off with Bruce Miller. Yes, the police found Bruce Miller, and he actually came and testified at the trial. Yeah, he testified he had not been having a physical relationship with Cora, and that Cora had not run off to him in America, where he'd been working as an estate agent, having given up show business. Yes, they had been close friends. Yes, they'd had what we would now consider a very sort of flirty back and forth relationship, but she certainly hadn't run off with him, and he had no idea where she was. And at this point, it's worth stressing, despite everything that comes next that came before, nobody had ever found where Cora was. If Cora wasn't the torso, there is zero idea where she went. However, the jury were very convinced that Cora was the torso because they took only 27 minutes to find him guilty. After this, he never gave any reason why he may have killed his wife, but he decided to put all his focus on saving Ethel. She was being charged with an accessory after the fact, and he then began to throw everything to say Ethel had nothing to do with this. Whatever you think I did. And thanks in large part to Crippen's own words, Ethel was found completely innocent. She went to America for a while, returned to Britain in 1915, lived completely anonymously, and it was later discovered she died in 1967. Crippen was hanged on November 23rd, 1910, and buried at his asking with a photo of Ethel. So the case captured the popular imagination. Crippen was the first killer caught through what was then the very modern use of telegraphy. I'm not sure what the equivalent would be today because communications are going so fast. Well, I do know. You'll find out with the cat story next, I suppose. Plays, books, and movies dramatised the whole thing. And there is a hype here. I'm going to call it a hype. There is a hype here about the case because Frederick Edwin Smith, a celebrity barrister, so of course he was used. Oh, WhatsApp, yeah. Now, actually, in the books there are some. There's the Twitter killer who was caught and caught people through Twitter. So we'll do that sometime, because that is a very modern thing. Anyway, so Frederick Smith said that he was one of the most dangerous and remarkable men who have lived this century, which, it has to be said, is very much over-egging this whole thing. But that's the level of drama. Anyway, and that was that for, 80 years. Crippen had his defenders, not least of which some members of his family. And then, in 2007, forensic expert David Foran from Michigan State University claimed that he had managed to get DNA from the torso, and that torso was not that of Cora Crippen. Now, how did they come to this conclusion many, many years later? Well, firstly, they extracted DNA from a microscope slide which contained a section of the torso which had been kept by the Royal London Hospital, preserved in formaldehyde and fixed with pine resin. They also took DNA from what they believed were living relatives of Cora, having done a massive search, sort of genealogical search. And these DNA things did not match. They also, in an attempt to bolster this case, because this hit the news, the people who had defended Crippen really went for, well, he didn't do it, did he? Again, the scar was the scar statement was examined, and it was seized on that several people describing the so-called scar had found hair follicles in it, which meant, well, no, it's not one of the scars. Now, the hair that was found on the comb still exists and is in storage, and they said, well, can we test that? But that was refused, so we have no further knowledge. So after doing all of that, a modern argument began. There were people on both sides. Some people argued the slide was too old, but other people said, well, what we know of modern psychology is that if Crippen brought a load of poison and poisoned Cora, poisoners do not then generally cut people up and spread the body around. The whole point of poisoning somebody is you don't actually have to, spill any blood. But a counterpoint to this was maybe Crippen actually shot Cora, because the head was never found, but a pistol was found. Anyway, this went back and forth, and in 2009, a UK commission reviewed the case and decided no, it was not going to issue a posthumous pardon. James Patrick Crippen, second cousin 3 times removed of Dr Crippen. Yes, it is Cat, you're quite right. Poison, I believe that is true. I think I'm gonna move to I'm leading to a different conclusion there. I'm leading to a different conclusion. So James Patrick Crippen said, the evidence says the man should be pardoned. Everyone thinks of him as a murderer. Every time I come through customs to England, someone has made a comment on my name linking me to a murderer. And that was in 2010. So it turns out if you come into Britain and you call Crippen, someone's going to go, which I admit is very, very annoying. Yeah, you're quite right, Kat. Ethel could have poisoned her and he cut her on. Because this is the major problem that I have with, say, DNA saying that wasn't Cora. Because if that wasn't Cora, there is a body in Crippen's cellar that Crippen put there, because the pyjama is surely the strongest evidence possible. You couldn't go back in time. That pyjama could only have got there after Crippen had been in the house. Somebody had put a body in the cellar. There weren't many people in that house to do it. So why could Crippen have put a body in the cellar? Well, people have argued that Crippen, if this wasn't Cora, that Crippen could have been practicing forms of medicine, and somebody could have died. But again, it's unclear why you would dispose of the head and the limbs so successfully and then stick the torso in the cellar. Anyway, that is the weird case of Dr. Crippen, a man who, on the one hand, looks almost certain to have killed his wife, but on the other hand, there were lodgers. Now, the lodgers is interesting. You have to ask us, could a lodger have... Now, that's interesting. There is nothing in the trial. The defence never tried to blame a lodger. They went entirely on she's gone away, and then tried to say, well, I ran away because I got scared. So it's a mess. It's become a modern mess. For many years, you could be, 99% certain Crippen killed them. But with the DNA, there is doubt. But if there is doubt, there is still the question of whose body it is. And I don't think these discoveries, they may stop him of killing one person, but I don't think they reflect any better on him. I don't think this is a slam dunk victory for the defenders. I think this is a very, very murky case. Anyway, we'll just have a little pause there, and we'll have a chat about our thoughts, and then we'll get into the cats, which I think is what everyone really wants. Okay, so there's been a lot of good points. I mean, the lodgers is a brilliant point. Ditch, I think balance of probability is that it was her body, because the idea that she completely vanished, and there was another body, and etc. But just in a sense, a lot of true crime is enjoying mysteries that we can talk about, and this is definitely a mystery we can talk about. So I think it's great. Foxy, so in the trial, they went back and forth. The prosecution in the trial said, this is a scar. Here are our medical experts. The defence said, this is not a scar because there are hairs growing out of it. And here's some medical experts which we may have sort of conned into saying this. Don't look too hard at that. And when it came back in the modern day, the scar still has the same thing. People say that was a scar, and people say no. Now the scar doesn't exist anymore. It's not extant. We have a hair and we have a slide of some of the torso. So that's all a bit mad. Hello, Wolfie Bear. Good to see you in chat. You are just in time, Wolfie, for one of my favourite all-time pieces of true crime. I love things that are a bit stranger, a bit more unique and new and different. That's true. They could have damaged the body. It's just one of these things we don't know. I mean, we're so far removed, and there was so much messing about with the experts. We don't know. Sadly. Okay, so we're going to get into one of my favourites. So this is a murder case that involves Douglas Beamish, David Hilder, and the absolutely state-of-the-art modern forensic crime solving possibility of cats. Right. So until recently, the preeminent cat. Would there not have been any contamination? So the slide, the slide they took the DNA from, has been. The people who argue that they have got DNA have argued that it has been kept in storage. It is covered in formaldehyde and pine wax. It is complete. It's like a locked time capsule. Other people have said, just like you, it's been too long, and you can't guarantee it. So the fact that there was DNA that didn't match Cora is irrelevant because it could be anything. Oh, you live near the Beamish Museum. Don't worry, this is not that sort of thing. So until recently, the preeminent cat in the true crime world was Diddles. Diddles the cat. He was owned by Elizabeth Prater. He lived in London in 1888, and he was one of the few living things who knew who Jack the Ripper was. Really. Unfortunately, Diddles couldn't speak English and was of no help in solving the case. I'm currently writing the first true crime dossiers in depth, which is going to be as big a book as I can manage on Jack the Ripper, taking in pretty much everything. And when I do that, I will do a long series of streams. We will do a long series of theme streams, giving as much as I can. And in that, we will get to the legend of Diddles the cat. But just to tease it here, on the night when one of Jack the Ripper's victims was murdered, Diddles the cat woke his owner up, complaining, as he did when there was a noise. I'm not actually sure what Diddles' gender is. Having done this huge build-up, I can't tell from the word Diddles. I'm going to be honest, this is a bit of a weak point. Diddles woke his owner up, complaining about a noise outside. Diddles, the owner ignored Diddles and went back to sleep. So it's entirely possible, if not likely, that Diddles had actually heard, if not seen, Jack the Ripper. So I like to, obviously I'm a bit of a cat person, I like to say that Diddles, there weren't many people that knew who Jack the Ripper was, and Diddles did. But sadly, nobody could. Anyway, there is now a new groundbreaking feline. I would like to introduce you to Snowball. This is why you have a cat now, isn't it? It says a watch cat. Polly is lovely, but she's not going to be that helpful on the watching front. I'm going to be honest. Polly tells me off if I walk from behind her because she jumps. And I'm like, you have the skills of a hunter. I'm not exactly a ninja. How have you not detected me moving past you? Anyway, so I'm going to introduce you to Snowball, and then if you're in the UK, I'm going to introduce you to Tinker, and then I'm going to introduce you to the weirdest bit of Futurefy you will hear today. So, a murder. In the 80s and 90s, Shirley Dugay was in a relationship with a man called Douglas Beamish. It was a volatile relationship. Beamish had a criminal record and a history of abuse. He'd been reported to the police multiple times. Yes, Snowball and Tinker is the new BBC crime drama. I'm selling it to Netflix. In fact, I'm as soon as this stream ends, I'm emailing Netflix. A former girlfriend accused him of rape and threatening to murder her. He had a history of being an unpleasant sort of chap. Beamish and Shirley split, and to avoid Beamish, Shirley moved to Sunnyside in Prince Edward Island, Canada, a town of 16,000 people. Hi there, Karen. Good to see you. Oh, Tinker was the name of your tortoise cat. Sadly, I've not got any tortoise crime-based things, but if I see one, I'll dig it up. Well, I've got a lot of tortoise-based crime, but it's basically 200 years old and involves a load of sailors. But yeah. So Beamish went back to his parents' house. Shirley had 3 children with him, and 2 from a prior relationship. However, 2 years after the split, on the night of October 3rd, 1994, Shirley's neighbours heard a screaming match between her and Beamish. Prior to this, Beamish had written a letter signed in blood, said he was going to kill her and the children. Anyway, after this screaming match, Shirley disappeared. So yes, I need to tweak the emotes. Yes, please, Steve, if you would. I do love emotes. I just need to let the shackles off. Anyway, she disappeared. On October 7th, the police were called to an abandoned car, which had been left without plates on Highway 169 in the Tyne Valley area. They found blood inside and realised it was Shirley's car. They went to see the family, who explained she hadn't been seen since the 3rd. They hadn't called the police any earlier than the 7th because they were scared that if they reported Shirley missing, Beamish may try and take the children. So forensics soon established that the blood in the vehicle was Shirley's, and they interviewed Beamish immediately because he was the #1 suspect. He said he had no idea where she was and implied that she had abandoned him and the children. There wasn't as yet anything to link him to the actual disappearance, and no body, so this wasn't a murder investigation. However, blood, abandoned vehicle, violent ex-partner, the police were under no illusions. So the Royal Canadian Mounted Police threw everything they could into a search of the island, including bringing out students from the police academy and the military. 3 days into the search, the military found a bag hidden in the woods 8 kilometres from Shirley's home. Inside was a man's leather jacket and a pair of shoes, both covered in what proved to be Shirley's blood. The shoes were Beamish's size. However, all of this is still not enough evidence to charge him. Enter Snowball. The forensic team discovered something else. On the jacket's lining were white hairs. They worked out that these white hairs had come from a cat. Constable Roger Savai is the man credited with remembering that when they had interviewed Beamish, a white cat had been walking around. And this was Snowball, the Beamish family pet. So Roger realised that, well, if there's hair in the jacket, could we prove that Snowball had that hair, which would surely link the jacket to Beamish? There was, of course, a major problem at this point. This was the mid-90s. DNA was really a new science and had only ever been used in court with human DNA. There simply was no science anywhere in the world's legal systems about using animal DNA. However, Roger was so committed to the case, he persisted in trying to get support for a study of cat DNA. He actually was laughed at by some labs. In the end, he managed to get a man called Stephen O'Brien to work on it. Stephen was a renowned geneticist, but he had nothing to do with crime. He worked for the US National Cancer Institute as the chief of the Laboratory of Genomic Diversity, and he believed that cat genetics could help aid human health. I mean, I don't know anything about how the cat genes in health went after this. I'm sure there were some slightly terrifying YouTube videos. Oh, hello. So I've had an alert. Thanks Steve for tipping $5. That's brilliant. That also means I set that up right. So I'm glad we've tested that. Thanks very much. So Stephen O'Brien and Roger got together. O'Brien thought, well, I'm working on human health and cats, but sounds really. He literally just said, this is really interesting. So they got together. They won a legal order to allow them to take a blood sample from Snowball. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Snowball probably wasn't that keen on that bit, but don't worry, that's the most danger Snowball is in. Don't worry, it's fine. That such was the immense rarity and pressure. Surely fur would have made some more sense. Yeah. I don't know I'm not a geneticist. In the book, there is a large section from an official paper which explains all the technical complexities. If you want to read that, I would murder it if I tried to read it out. I'm not really a geneticist in any sense, so we're just going to stick with a top level explanation for this. But such was the immense pressure and rarity that Roger personally flew with the hair. Oh, they did get hair. They got hair and blood back to. Oh no, that was the fat cat. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't take hair. Presumably it's more obvious that you can get DNA out of the blood because otherwise, as we'll get to in a minute, there was no guarantee they could get DNA off the fur in the jacket. Fortunately, there were enough roots of the cat hairs to get a DNA sample, whereas they could definitely get one from the blood. So I guess that's the difference. Blood's a guaranteed sample. The cat hairs is a bit of a risk. However, as you've probably worked out, Snowball's DNA matched the DNA on the jacket with a 45 million to 1 chance it was a different cat. So everybody, well, not most people now became convinced, right, well, Beamish killed her then, didn't he? Because his cats, he's the number one suspect, her blood is all over these clothes, and his cat's DNA is on it. So you think it would be? No, so Snowball killed her. I mean, that is an alternative. That is a definite alternative. That I think, I mean, you know, in the conspiracy parts of the internet, you could probably have a good day claiming that the cat did it, but that's not the route this case is going to take. So, but they still had a lot of work to do, because nothing like this had ever been in a court case, and it was felt that if they just rocked up in court with this evidence, they get laughed out. So more work had to be done. They tested 19 other cats from the island and 9 from the US, selected at random, just to make sure that the school the cat ate your homework. Yeah, the cat orders Kickstarter things at my house. It's not me. I don't order Kickstarter things. It's the cat. So they had to prove that the cats on the island were genetically diverse enough that Snowball was giving a different result to everything else, and they did. So, there was now a twist. Although Beamish was the suspect, there was no body, but the harsh winter had stopped the search. By May, the situation had changed, and on May 6th, 1995, fishermen found a shallow grave 10 miles from where the car was dumped. In it was the body of a woman who'd been bound and beaten so badly, a tooth was found in her lung. She had been strangled. It was Shirley. This was now a murder investigation, but they already had the suspect and the evidence. So the trial focused on Snowball. There was no doubt that somebody had violently killed Shirley, dumped a jacket covered with her blood, and that jacket had spent a lot of time in contact with Snowball. In contact with Snowball was the man with a history of violence who'd threatened to kill her. So, in the world first, an animal DNA was used. The defence. Now, do you remember O.J. Simpson? And if it does not fit, it must have quit. And I believe the reason it didn't fit is because they took O.J. off some medicine, so his hands changed size, so they didn't fit. I mean, don't quote me on that. I think no, these things are all very researched. That is a piece of knowledge from O.J. I seem to remember, but so we're not gonna. That's not a quotable piece of information. Anyway, defence lawyer John McDougall tried his own little rhyme. Without the cat, the case falls flat. Anyway, the case did not fall flat. Beamish was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced in 1996 to 18 years to life. Back in a second. Hello, everybody. Yeah, about the O.J. Hands thing. Normally, everything I say in this has been very well researched. That is an off-the-cuff memory, so I'm not committing to that. But this Snowball thing is. So he failed his appeal twice. In 2013, he'd been long enough for a parole hearing, but he was denied because he'd never repented in any way. There was a parole hearing in 2022, but he didn't. He said he didn't want it, and then finally he confessed he'd done it. They said, "What changed? Why are you telling us now?" "I had 3 heart attacks. I suffered kidney failure. I've nearly died." When you get to that stage, you realise you need to clean up your past. So that's what I'm doing, which is pretty pathetic when you've murdered somebody. But, you know. So, the outcome. Thanks to tenacious detective work, a brave geneticist, and Snowball the cat, the precedent was set, and the legal world began to take a look at what they could learn from cats. Which is a sentence I never thought I would say. O'Brien and his team published a paper with a brilliant title called The Meowplex, a new DNA test using tetranucleotide STR markers for domestic cats. It predicted that with 65 million cats in the United States, a large percentage of US households have a cat and an abundance of cat hair. With the appropriate DNA tools, cat hairs could be used to link perpetrators for crimes. And it did. People started building cat databases. A cat, which we'll move on to. So, just in case you're watching this on the VOD, I've mentioned the OJ gloves thing, and chat love it. So, looks like we might have to do an OJ stream at some point. Anyway, you are of course wondering what happened to Snowball the cat, and you may be worried about Snowball the cat because it was the family pet, but it got the son put in prison for the rest of his life. Well, I'm pleased to say that Snowball remained a much-loved member of the parents' family. When explained why, they said, "He's still the family cat. I mean, the son's gone, but we got the cat. So that's perfect." And that was all in America. But there's more. There's more. I want to tell you about David Hilder and Tinker, which is the UK's first cat DNA breakthrough case. Breaking news from chat, OJ had a cat. We're about 30 seconds away from Ditch suggesting the cat did it, if we're being honest. Hi Tom, great to see you. So Tinker, the cat, led to the creation of the British Cat DNA database, which is, I imagine if you're a cat, that sounds quite impressive. Anyway, so British police opened a murder investigation on July 3rd, 2012, when a group of students found something wrapped in a black bin liner on Portsmouth Beach. Yes, cat, there is genuinely a British cat DNA database. And I'll get you to, we'll be coming to what exactly that means and what form that's taken. And then, don't worry, there's still an amazing cat-based crime-solving twist coming up, which is kind of like the opposite of Black Mirror, although I'm sure dog owners are going to find it pretty dystopian. On Portsmouth Beach, a human torso was found. Students who were studying from abroad hailed workmen who hailed the police, and the police found the beach. As forensics worked on the torso, I'm sure dogs would get credit, cat, if they were in anyone else's stream except me, who has a cat, so I'm incredibly biased. Yeah, Ditch, if anything happens to me, it's Polly's fault. It's the cat. I mean, I've been cuddled to death, right? If one day I'm not there, I've been cuddled to death. Probably a nice way to go. Oh, Steve's writing with the puns. Can you gather enough evidence? I do like that, Steve. I do like that. We'll let you off. The torso was from a male. My head, legs, and arm were missing. Brilliantly, when I read this, first read this case, it said the torso showed damage which suggested a violent attack. Well, I mean, the head, legs, and arms are missing. Steve's asking basically why I'm doing a cat-themed stream, and the cat isn't here. The cat isn't here because the cat has a marvellous habit of wandering around and pressing buttons, and as I'm trying to get established as a streamer, vanishing at a random point in the stream because Polly has decided to press the off button or the stop streaming button or literally any kind of button I don't feel is quite the right professional vibe yet. So she will come. Cat cam. There is a cat cam set up. We're just going to have to introduce her slowly. I don't. Trust me, when she's in it. I mean, one day she was very annoyed with me because I wouldn't let her sit on the mouse, and I had to let her sit on the mouse, and it was the only thing that made her happy. At which point you've just got to give up trying to do any work and go for a walk around the garden. So this is yes, anyone's watching this, I'm completely soppy about my cat. She's a 13-year-old rescue. She was incredibly ill when they found her. She's now doing great, lots of love and medicine and cuddles, and she now has a happy home. And I'm a complete softie. So, but yeah, she loves exploring, and by exploring I mean pressing everything. I've got some hi-fi system to my right, and Polly has pressed every single button, which I'm not entirely comfortable with. But yeah, Catwall said Polly's activating. That's what Polly's out there getting me new material. I've got a little camera on her, and on the YouTube channel there'll be the world's first live streamed cat murder. I'm not sure if this is in good taste, but here we are. Yeah, the cat's just read everything. That's true. It's Polly's DNA in the database. I don't actually know how you get the DNA in the database. I should have done that. That would be awesome. Well, let's get on with this, and we'll get to the database, and then we'll get to the future, because this is incredible. So, essentially, they found this torso, and then they found the pelvis and the legs at low tide, and at this point they managed to identify the victim. So the victim was David Guy. He lived in a camper van and was known as Little Dave. He had a friend, David Hilder, who imaginatively was called Big Dave. He was a 47-year-old scrap metal dealer who lived nearby. The police had what I'm going to describe as an unusual and ill-defined relationship. Little Dave the victim had a severe drinking problem and no permanent address. Big Dave often gave him meals and cleaning facilities, and they hung out a lot together. However, Big Dave was often incredibly violent towards his friend, often because he didn't think Little Dave had been nice enough to the cat. If he felt the cat had been mistreating, he would beat him up. We're not going to... I'm sure there's people watching this on the VODs going, damn right. But it does get a bit... I'm not going to commit to that cat. It's unclear. Their relationship is very unclear, so I'm just going to leave it there. Anyway, forensics were working away and produced a major result. The torso had been wrapped in bin liners and a shower curtain, and on the curtains there were 8 cat hairs. The police were able to match fibres from the curtains to those in Big Dave's bathroom, but they also managed to match the cat hairs to Big Dave's cat Tinker. So, this provided the police with a theory. At some point in the days before June 3rd, Big and Little Dave had had an argument, the trigger being that Little Dave was considered to have mistreated Tinker. And during a violent incident, Hilda, who was a depressive with a low IQ, stabbed Guy to death. Finding himself with the body, he cut it into pieces and used his work bike, which has a big box on the front, to move and dump the body parts. Then the bike and the rider were famous. Hello Sydney, hello from Michigan, hello from Flitwick in Britain. Yes, it's a Harry Potter character. We had the name first. So to test this theory, they worked out, could you have scattered all the body parts around using a bike? Yes, you could. Weirdly, even though the Tinker's hair was a key piece of evidence, and even though the curtain and the threads were a key piece of evidence, all of this almost was irrelevant, because it was at this point that police found out from other police that Hilda had walked into Shoreham police station on July 5th, found it closed, and then rang the police, gave them his name and address, and said, I need to speak to a copper. I think I've killed someone. An officer arrived and he said, I do not know. I'm not sure what I've done. Police officer PC Stephen Miles later reported he was having flashbacks as if he had done something. I think his words were, if I have done what I think I've done, then I'm going to kill myself. I asked him what he thought he'd done, but he repeated, I don't know. The police took Hilda to hospital to make sure he'd not overdosed, checked his flat, didn't see anything wrong, and went away again. And then came back a few bit afterwards. So the case went to trial. The curtain, the blood, and the cat's DNA were central parts of the of it. And the hairs were actually sent to the US, which is obviously pioneering cat DNA. A match was proved. And it's at this point that the Department of Genetics at Leicester University started a database. They started with 150 UK cats to establish again that cats across Britain had enough genetic variation that DNA could be used in a court legitimately. This was the first time the UK's new cat DNA database was used in court. And the aim of the project is not to have DNA of every cat, but it is to have enough samples to continually prove that DNA matches between cat hair, hello Tegan, between cat hair and cat blood are unique enough to be used in court. And this is the key thing. They have to keep proving that this is a legitimate science, because a lot of people are like, cat DNA, you have to, there's a certain level. So at the trial, Hilda was found guilty of manslaughter and given a life sentence with a minimum of 12 years. Tinker was rehoned, and as far as we know, have lovely owners who have never killed anybody. Yes, chatter positing a theory that Tinker told Hilda to kill him because he was not happy. Once again, probably going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that. I feel this one is where we're going to get complaints from people, I think. Never mind. Anyway, I've been teasing something. So this is how, so far we've discussed what is perhaps the more obvious use of cats, or indeed animals. You find their fur, and then you find that someone lives with the animal, come in contact with the animal, and you move their DNA across. I'd like to introduce you to the future. In the days as I was actually writing this article, originally, which was last year, I think, Australia's Flinders University, in cooperation with the Victoria Police Forensic Services, published a study called Is There Human DNA on Cats? And this is essentially saying, so imagine you're at home, you've got a pet, Your DNA is on that pet. You're stroking that pet's rubbing you. You know? A study of 20 cats across 15 homes showed that 80% of those cats had collectible levels of DNA, and of which 70% would be usable in a criminal case. Now, much more study is required. But essentially, if you're a criminal and you come into contact with an animal, people are working out ways to get your DNA off that animal. So, you know, don't give it a cuddle on the way out, I think. Or I mean, I know a few cats that would give their version of a cuddle quite a toothy cuddle. All right. So that's the cat themed portion of the stream. We're gonna do one more case. It's we've been going for an hour 20. I think we'll do another case. I've got one queued up that I was prepping this morning. Foxy, that's the last time I stroke a cat I see outside. Ditch. From now on, I'm wearing gloves when petting the brother-in-law's dog. Once again, you don't need to worry about your DNA being on the animal unless you've committed some sort of horrendous crime. So that's a bit of a self-owning shot, isn't it? Ah, yes, if you're enjoying what we've been doing here today, do please feel free to like. I think it's called the follow button, but I still call Twitter X. You can't expect me to. I still call X Twitter. You can't expect me to know the right words for these things. Yes, or you can blame the cat by submitting your DNA. Yes, the cat can shop you. I don't have a story of a cat walking into a police station, but I'm sure with enough time I could find one. Yeah. Not that you'll need to DNA test Polly, it was definitely her cuddling me. Yeah, there's all sorts of... so I have written a few detective novels, and people in chat are really going crazy with the brilliant suggestions of how murderers could use this knowledge to absolutely mess people about. And did I mention that I own all the ideas? No. They're sort of saying you could get people's DNA onto a cat and then get them blamed. And thanks, Steve. That's perfect. Oh, yeah. Right, I tell you what we're going to do, we're going to take a little pause and we're going to talk about some of the brilliant people who are in chat, because I've been very remiss and not given any shout-outs, and there were some brilliant streamers in chat. So we're going to start with Steve Forward. If you like guitars, classic rock, Steve loves the 70s, the 80s, he does a bit of 90s. Yesterday, as a special treat, he did Electric Six's K-Bar, which I'm going to be honest, I think scared half the audience, because but it's brilliant. Steve's an incredibly talented guitarist. If you'd like to give Steve a follow, if you like guitars, Steve, can you give yourself a shout out, Steve? Or do I have to do that? I probably should do that myself. We also have Tom Hansen. Tom Hansen is a brilliant drummer. Tom Hansen is one of those people that can drum along to a song he's not heard before. This is both hugely impressive to me, and I'm going to be honest, we do abuse it quite a lot by going, here. I mean, one night, so Tom normally plays rock metal and he's brilliant. One night, somebody came in and suggested Scatman John, and Tom did it brilliantly, and that's how good he is, and what a great sense of humour he has. So if you like drums, do give Tom a follow. Foxy Harley's in the chat as well. She's a great streamer from the UK. She does singing. She does game streaming on Twitch. Who would have thought? What a concept! But she also does some great paranormal streams. where we watch some videos. Adam Mark, UK paranormal investigator. So that's good fun. Please give Foxy a shout out if you think that's a good idea. I'm going to spoil this. This is a true crime stream, but I think for Halloween we're just going to throw away all the careful, balanced, logical research and just do a load of ghost stories on Halloween. So that's going to be fun. Obviously, sort of ghosty crime stories, but just stuff where I turn the analysis off and just go, let's just do the ridiculous rumour, because we'll just have a fun, spooky stream. I'd also like to shout out Karen Warbis. Again, this stream is very heavy with great streamers, so thanks everybody. Karen Warbis is a brilliant singer. She does I've got to get this right. She does a 40s stream. She does a 70s stream. And today she's been doing a Beltane stream, and she does go around all the pagan events and do special streams for that. I'm now going to click a button just to make sure I've not completely missed somebody that I need to shout out. So do give me a second to read this list. I know reading a list is not necessarily the best thing you can do. Right, I think that's everyone I know. If I've missed you, genuinely get in chat. Go, hey, it's me. So that's I think that's everyone. But all of those people are brilliant. I watch them all the time. And gonna try and give Steve a shout out. Just give me a second. Oh yeah, I didn't Ditch. I genuinely didn't know whether you'd want me to do it or not. Ditch Boy is a brilliant streamer. He does Forza. He can tune a car on a level that completely baffles me. I have no idea what's going on. He's a prime Forza streamer. I don't know when you'll be doing it again. I hope you will. I didn't want to even embarrass you by going, get on it, you know. But yeah, if you're into Forza or cars, Ditch knows his stuff. Absolutely knows his stuff. But what for pressed? You're playing other stuff then. Well, let me know, and we'll sort this out. Yeah, you really should. You're a really good streamer, and the knowledge you have about what you do. Ditch will master a subject like nobody else I know. He'll get inside it. He'll take it apart. He'll really know it. So when Ditch starts playing Forza, you know he knows his tunes, and when he starts playing Diablo, you know he's absolutely cracked. What's going on? Yeah. Oh, thanks, Carl. Yeah, definitely. So that's good. Okay. So I am now going to get into. We've done a lot. We've done a couple of murders tonight. So now I'm going to tell you a story about somebody that didn't do a murder. Unfortunately, they put him in prison for a huge amount of time before they were able to prove he hadn't done the murder, which isn't ideal. Poor choice of words. I don't know which words you mean, but yes, I'm not going to disagree. Oh, we have talked about murders, not done murder. Yes, just for the benefit of my lawyers, I haven't killed anybody today. Ever. I haven't killed anybody ever. Right, I think we're safe there. Thanks, Kat. It's been great seeing you. Nothing wrong with leaving and going to bed. I will be back Thursday at midnight. And we will be doing some more. today, yeah. Polly's history is unknown. I don't know what happened before she arrived. Given her the way she looks at the pigeons, I don't think Polly has killed so much as an ant. I think she's a genuinely kind, good-natured kitty. Until she smothers me to death accidentally. But that's not her fault. Oh yeah, Digi saying, you didn't kill anyone today, it's 24 minutes past midnight. We're fairly certain you haven't killed anyone in the last 24 minutes. It's not a very long period. Well, no. This is also true. Stop trying to ruin my carefully worded alibis. Yeah, the previous owner of Polly is the subject of a future true crime monologue. Yeah, we'll see. What I like about this is my friends and I have this in joke where it's like, this is going to be a Netflix documentary, and I'm pleased to say that this is going to be a Netflix documentary has now moved over to, is this going to be on your podcast? Which is great. As an author, you really need to work on your wording. Look, I'll set the jokes up and I'll do the jokes. It's all part of the fun. So this is why I do a talky one, because it's very different from me doing a writey one. Also, if you're a writer, I would like to encourage you not to use the words talky and writey. That's reclam. You know what you've done. I'm not explaining that one. That's just a bit of an in joke. Okay, so we'll dive into the exoneration of Craig Coley. So California resident Craig Coley spent 39 years in prison for the murder of 2 people. There's just one problem: he didn't do it. Not in a I spent years denying it, I didn't do it sort of way. In a, oh, we've now invented DNA and you definitely didn't do it kind of way. He has the unfortunate record of being the longest person behind bars in California before being found innocent, and the 14th longest in the whole US. Don't worry, I'll be finding out who's first and doing that on another stream. But you never go with first. You start a bit further down. So this is what happened. Coley was born at the end of one war in 1947 in Los Angeles, and he would serve in another. He was in the U.S. Navy during Vietnam. He was on. Obviously, this is a serious subject, and I'm not just doing this next line as a cheap joke, but he did serve on the USS Enterprise and the USS Bainbridge for 3 tours. At the time of this incident, he was working as a manager at a restaurant. He was an unremarkable person with no convictions and had never given even the slightest hint that he might kill anybody, which is because he didn't kill anybody. Anyway, on November 11th, 1978, Rhonda Wright and her son were murdered in their home in the Simi Valley of Los Angeles. The son, Donald, aged 4, suffocated in bed. Rhonda was raped and throttled with a macrame rope. She was 24. They were discovered when they didn't turn up for a family event, and worried relations called the police. At first glance, it looked like it was a burglary that had gone wrong, but the police swiftly decided that the burglary was staged to distract from the fact this was a sexual murder. And the police very, very quickly found a prime suspect. Did they have a cat? No, we've moved on from cats. If they'd had a cat, Craig wouldn't have been in prison for all that time. I'm now imagining the complaining tweets about the comedic tone that this has taken, but who cares? So, who was their chief suspect? Rhonda's ex-boyfriend was Craig Coley. A neighbour said that they had seen Coley and his vehicle at the property at the same time a disturbance was heard. This witness said they were awoken by 5 a.m. by the sounds of a fight from her apartment, looked out and saw Coley's truck. into which someone with medium-length hair climbed and left the apartment. They couldn't say the figure was Coley, but they could say it was his truck. Coley was arrested the same day. He later told NBC News, "When they arrested me, I told them, you could do whatever you want to me, but don't stop looking for the person that did this, because you have the wrong man, you have the wrong man." And as you're guessing, they basically did stop looking for anybody else who'd done this. His alibi was he had seen her the previous day, they'd had consensual sex, and the night of the murder he'd been at a restaurant with friends until 4:30 a.m. He was dropped off. He dropped one off at their house at 4:45 a.m. and went home. The police used a warrant to search his home, where they found a blood-stained towel and a child's t-shirt. Believing this was the victim's blood, and he had used it to wipe the blood off, they charged him the same day with double murder and asked for the death penalty. The police examined other factors. The home had not been broken into. Somebody had used a key which had been found dropped in the floor inside. Coley, as a boyfriend, had once had a key. They also found on him what they believed was evidence from his attack: a cut upper lip, a swollen lower lip, scratches, and an abrasion on the genitals. The first trial couldn't come to a decision, but was 10-2 in favour of a guilty verdict when it ended, and a second trial in 1980 found him guilty and gave him life imprisonment without parole. Such was the scepticism at the time that a local newspaper ran the very non-victorious headline, "Coley truly appears to be the wrong man." He began the appeals process, but was never victorious. He never stopped claiming his innocence, and his father, a retired police officer, believed him and did everything he could to fight for his son's name. He remortgaged the house to pay legal bills. However, his appeal process became exceedingly possible when the detectives ordered that the evidence, including semen and hair, from the murder were destroyed. And with that, Craig Coley lost all hope of getting out. In 1989, Detective Michael Bender saw the case and took an interest in it and began to investigate himself. He became convinced there had been a miscarriage of justice. He started campaigning to various legal authorities to have the case reopened. He went to the FBI, the Attorney General, city attorneys, grand juries. He was always turned down. His own department threatened to fire him if he didn't stop this silly pursuit. But he never truly gave up. Eventually, in 2016, Simi Valley Police Chief Dave Livingston was, partly because of Bender's work and persistence, persuaded to open a cold case investigation. Detective Dan Swanson took over. Detective Dan Swanson is an incredibly efficient and successful man, because he found that the boxes of evidence which had been ordered to be destroyed had actually been mislaid in storage and was still sat there. He found the evidence. He also found that biological samples, which had been also destroyed, were sat in a laboratory. The lab was a private lab that had been taken over by new owners. They had shoved everything in the back, and Swanson found it. He and his forensic team managed. T-Gun are 100% laughing at that joke, but I'm not going to read it out on stream. No offence. I think we know why. So Swanson managed to get DNA from sperm and saliva from the bedsheet that the victim was murdered on and the child's t-shirt. And as you're probably guessing from the way I've done this whole thing, they found out that the DNA wasn't Coley's. They don't know who it is, but it's not the man that's been in prison. So, they did something else. Swanson did something else. Almost unbelievably, when Swanson went to the building where the witness said they'd looked out and seeing Coley's truck, it was still there. And he went and did something nobody had done. He went and he looked out that window. And you know what he saw? It would have been impossible to have seen the truck. Could have been any truck. There was no way in that kind of lighting conditions at that time of night, with that view, they could have said it was the truck. In the end, the report submitted by this force included 3 police officers agreeing that the detective handling the original case had mishandled it. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, T-Gun. No, it does. Yeah, it does have a different meaning that we're not going for on this channel. But I know what you meant. So it's fine. The police concluded after the completion of this very thorough and very far-reaching investigation, and due to the new DNA evidence, and really the totality of the new information, we are now convinced that Mr. Coley is factually innocent. Good idea, Dish. So, with this new evidence, Coley was pardoned on November 2nd, 2017 by California Governor Jerry Brown. A few months later, he was awarded nearly $2 million in compensation, which was calculated as $140 for every one of the 13,991 days he had been wrongfully in prison. A year later, he was given $21 million from Simi Valley City. City manager Eric Levitt said it was right to settle for $21 million, as contesting the legal case would have cost $80 million. And let's face it, they agreed he deserved it. Later, the pardon was superseded with he was found legally innocent. Coley, on being freed on Thanksgiving, said to NBC San Diego, it's difficult to put into words, obviously I was joyful, I was happy. I was looking forward to spending Thanksgiving at home. He didn't go home. He went straight to Mike Bender, the man who had got him out of prison, and spent the whole of Thanksgiving with his family. The real killer is unknown. An attempt to DNA match the killer to the Golden State Killer did not work. Coley himself has taken his compensation, reward's the wrong one, taken his compensation and put up a $50,000 award for any conviction, for any information leading to the killer's conviction. He said, I went 4 decades not being able to grieve the woman and child I love. He has since teamed up with Detective Bender to discuss the importance of chain of evidence procedures and following evidence. They do talks and lectures on how this mistake cannot happen again. And that is the exoneration of Craig Coley. Alright, so yes, so this is an important, Ditch raised a very valuable point. Yeah, they gave him a lot of money, but it doesn't give him his life back. He lost the best, I mean this is going to sound a cliche, but it is the best, the best years of your life. The chance to have another family or your first family. Getting 23 million doesn't really compensate for that. But hopefully the lessons from that era have been learned, and there are not as many mistakes. And this is kind of sad, really. Yeah. T-Gun, you've hit the nail on the head there, because it's frustrating that when you find somebody innocent, that means you've not found the real murderer. And this is true, that whoever murdered has got away with it. And a couple of streams ago, I discussed the case of Lucas Henry and Otis Toole. I don't know if you were there for that, Tegan, but this ties directly in. These people, these two, they killed a few people, but when they were arrested, they started to confess to hundreds of crimes. They confessed because they were given preferential treatment, restaurant meals, allowed to wander around. They were able to confess because they were given, they were fed information that they could seize on. Lucas was allowed to browse boxes of files to see if anything reminded of him, and of course he will then know something only the killer could know, because he's literally just read the file. People were so keen to fly in from all across America to sign off on murder cases, get them solved, that they didn't pay attention. And the real tragedy of those people, no disrespect to the people they did kill, but the real tragedy is that there are hundreds of killers and hundreds of families that never had justice, and killers that are free because the chance to capture them was completely lost, and now it's not being followed up. And they put it was like putting a blanket across so many murders. So it's not really enough to go, oh well, they didn't do it. They ruined so much. Yeah, exactly. One of the things I found while writing this, there are very, very few cases of a multiple murderer or a serial killer where a chance to capture them was not missed. Most people who could become these kind of killers are caught first, and there is normally, they get to that stage because something's not happened, and in the past that has been down to people not taking victims seriously. If only they all had cats. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Tegan, do you think the evidence could have been deliberately mislaid, or was it complete incompetence? About Craig Coley, I believe it was a bias. It was people thinking, "Wow, this is the wanting to end it easily, wanting to assume that this guy was the killer." I don't think I've not seen anything saying there was any sort of cover up, that this guy was framed. I've not seen anything like that. I just think in this case, as far as I've read, it was simply malpractice. They just simply chased the easy route, and they didn't stop and go, are we? I think there's a brilliant quote that says a lot. Sometimes the police, you get a gut feeling and that helps you, but you cannot convict on a gut feeling. You have to look at evidence, and in this instance, somebody's gut feeling was completely wrong, and they did not look. I mean, for instance, the fact that they hadn't worked out that this witness couldn't have been that sure. That's just not following evidence. That's not somebody. It's fine margins, exactly. It's better than malice. It was a mistake. Yeah, there's no suggestion he was deliberately stitched up for any reason other than just mistakes. There are cases where people, they're judged and put away because of sort of racism or hatreds or cover-ups or framings. This is not that. This was just mistakes. And yeah, exactly. Tunnel vision. Wolf, you're completely right. It was completely tunnel vision. And it must be terrifying when you're caught up in this. Because what do you do? How do you get out? You need people to listen. Unfortunately, Craig Coley found somebody that listened to him, but unfortunately it took a lot longer. You'd like to think we're learning from these things. I suspect we're not. I'm not going to make a big stand on that, because I'm going to kind of do some sort of stuff. Yeah, now, this is a good point. Stitch Boy is absolutely right. Dr Crippen, who we discussed in the first part, he claimed he ran because he thought, when you can't find when you can't find Cora, they're going to come for me. So he went, and that is, that's an entirely understandable motive. That is. There's no getting around that. Yes, it is shocking, but yeah, we may do some other ones where actually There's one in the book we may do where it is out and out hostile corruption. This was a mistake. In fact, Tegan, let me tie into another one. If you want to watch the VODs, one of my other streams, we discussed a blackmail case. This was a British police station in Bedfordshire, where I live. I don't think that's doxing me too much, because my whole point about this story is I was watching my own police force do this. So a guy comes in. I'm going to do this very quickly. Sorry if you heard this before, but I think this is a good story and it ties in. A guy comes into the police station. This is all being filmed for TV, but they have no idea why. Guy comes in, says he went to a prostitute a few weeks ago. Came out of his house today, and there's a note on his car saying, "You will pay me £1,000, or I will tell your family what you've been doing, you dirty man." So he goes to the cops, and the cops are like, right, because it's not illegal in Britain to sleep with a prostitute, but it is illegal in Britain to blackmail somebody for doing it. So they start investigating. The police do not pay ransoms, but if the victim is willing to put forward the money, they will put it in the location they've been asked to and monitor and hope someone comes to pick it up. So the guy gives them £1,000. They put it at the drop-off location, and they send a team a team of their detectives monitoring the drop-off through cameras, and then they start to try and work out who's blackmailing him. Stick with this, it's brilliant. First of all, they find the prostitute. They talk to her. They're convinced it's not her. She's actually, I was surprised, she's actually a fully registered company. Yes, you probably did, Wolfie. It's, let me get the right, it's 24 hours in police custody. And it was amazing, because we didn't know what was going to happen, and we're watching it live as it goes out in the police area where it's happening. These are our policemen we're watching. And this is why I often tell this story, because there's nothing like watching your own police discover this. So anyway, they find the prostitute. She's got a limited company, which I didn't realise you could get to that level, but that's good. It's not her. And then they're like, right, well, I'm sure you know that if you do anything these days on the internet, you leave a log. So there's the question: if this guy was seen going to a prostitute, somebody had to find out where he lived. So they started looking up anything online where people could have started to put it together. Company's house for a business, started to look into where could somebody have done a search, and then they find something. And then they call in a few officers, and they're briefed. They're not, the cameras can't see this, and then the officers go to the team who are monitoring the drop-off point, and they arrest one of the detectives monitoring the drop-off, because they had discovered that somebody had used the police computer system to look up the address of the victim several days before the victim had come into the police force. There is absolutely no reason to do that unless you're the blackmailer, and he did it with his account with his name on it. So they arrested him, and he decided to earn a bit of extra money by blackmailing people. And that, obviously, this element of police corruption nobody had any idea about. It was filmed live because they film loads of police stuff, and it just fell together. And then they broadcast it, and I'm watching my police investigate other parts of my police. It was just a hell of an experience. And the police made no attempt to cover this up. They were completely upfront. In fact, the police appealed his conviction to get him a bigger conviction, which he got, to make the point: you don't do this. But yeah, it's online. So I did. There's a VOD where I go into this in much more detail. I narrate the episode and then give a follow up. But the program is online. I don't know if you're in America or around the world if you can watch the VODs. It's on Channel 4 40D. Yeah, wasn't it for a grand? Exactly. The guy lost his entire family and career for £1,000. They believe he picked £1,000 because he thought it was low enough that the bloke wouldn't go to the police. He'd just pay it. and he was wrong. But yeah, if you're planning, I mean, not to be flippant, but if you're planning on performing a criminal act that might ruin your life, you probably want to risk a lot more. You know, it doesn't even, you can't really understand. You try and be empathetic and understand why people do things, but risking everything for £1,000 is not really. That's just outright stupidity. Anyway, so if you can watch it, I do recommend you watch it. If you can't, my book's got a narration of it, and the VOD's got a narration of it. But yeah, Channel 4, 4OD, 24 hours in police custody. I can't give you the episode number. One of the earlier series is, I don't know that offhand, but I'm sure Google. Yeah. All right. So we're closing in on 2 hours. We'll have a bit more chat. I wanted to do 2 hours tonight. I'm aiming to do 2 hour streams generally going forward. I do have a bit of promotional news. I've mentioned the True Crime Dossier series, which is accounts of true crime. Volume 3 is now live on Amazon. And the big development is that I have done a larger size omnibus of volumes 1 to 3, which is available from a more economical price. So that will be going up soon. I'm expecting the Amazon approval email any day. I don't know if anyone here is published on Amazon, but you await the Amazon approval email with a little bit of trepidation. It doesn't always work, but we shall see. But yeah, so that's out there. That does mean I may have to change the images on the scenes, but so that's happening. I think it's important to mention that I'm not just going to. Yes, Ditch is right. I should probably point out that if you like my talky presentation, but you want more than true crime, I actually have a history series, History in an Afternoon. History in an Afternoon is written, thank you Foxy, to be the kind of history textbooks I wanted as a student. Which is a risky thing to do, because I've had reviews where people have gone, this is chatty, this isn't a history book. Well, no, it's what I want to write as a history book. So there's 2 out at the moment. There's the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution, and they're researched and they're serious histories, but it's me talking you through what's going on. It's my goal with those. I love a dry history textbook that's the size of a brick, but I'll tell it to you in a way that's sort of fun and doesn't deliberately try and obfuscate to be clever. So that's the history. And then I've written a lot of novels. If you like horror, say you're a fan of Foxy and her paranormal streams, you might like my comedy horror series. Again, if you look at my link tree, which is available on Twitch, you can see Amazon links, you can see the True Crime Dossiers website, you can see my own website where I list all my novels. Yep, thanks Foxy, perfect. So I've got a comedy horror series, I've got a not very comedy horror series. I've also got a detective fiction series. Also coming soon, the cat-based detective series. There is cats are still like a really saleable thing. So basically, I should definitely write a series about a cat detective, and that would probably be a hit. Now I have a cat, I can take inspiration. Obviously, the cat detective would have to stop at certain points throughout the day and demand treats in order to then continue. I'm not sure if we really want the police to do that, but I felt Wolfie's got a game on Steam about a cat detective. Oh, I bet you have. I think there's a game about everything. Steam's amazing, isn't it? There's like everything. Just everything. Also, Wolfie, I want to know what that is. If you have that, please join my Discord. link on the link tree, and tell me what that is, because I genuinely want to know what the cat-based detective series on Steam is. So please do that. Yes, also if you want to get in my Discord, that's the place where it'll let you know about the shows. There's a section of the Discord devoted for people who watch this stream to tell me what they found. You know, if you've seen something happening, or you want something mentioned, let me know and I will have a look. Because I try and be worldwide, and Twitch is a worldwide audience, so let me know. Alright everybody, I feel like we're into the wittering part of this now, and I should let you all go. Thank you very much. We've done 3 great stories tonight. I will be back on Thursday for another show. Thanks, Ditch. I may do a Friday pop-up. I'll let you know. Again, it'll be later in the day to catch as global an audience as possible. I've got some brilliant stories coming up. So what have I got coming up to tease you with? I have got a genuinely dangerous con man. Like, genuinely threatening and, genuinely who ruined lives. So I've got that. The con man story, actually, thank you. Thanks both. The con man story has a great documentary. However, since that documentary was released, more has happened. So in my book, in the stream, you will find out the latest. And I assure you, it is a twist as good as anything that was on the show. So there we go. I've got the true crime streamer who solved a crime. No, I've no pretensions that I'm ever going to solve any murders, but somebody really did. So there we go. What else have we got? Yeah, I'll probably after today I'll probably fit some dodgy policemen, because why not? And there's all sorts of things. Con cat or commit any either. I don't quite get what you mean, Dutch. Oh, are these Steam games? Yeah, if you could put it in the general so everyone can find it. Oh, thanks, Steve. Oh, Conman, Concat. Yeah. Obviously, I've got to go away and find a load of more cat stories. I'm sure there are some. I don't know if the dog owners are sat there seething, and maybe I should balance that out a bit yin and yangy. We shall see. I should probably do the Twitter killer, seeing as I had Have I done the Twitter killer? I don't know. Alright then everybody, thanks very much. I've enjoyed this greatly. You've been a great chat. I hope you've liked it. If you aren't following me, please do drop me a follow. Horses are underrepresented. Yeah, but they get in all the military histories and stuff, don't they, horses? So I feel they're caught done that. Right, so I shall see you Thursday. I do hope to do a Friday stream. I have to discuss with a few people a plan. But otherwise, thank you, Karen, thank you. Thanks for letting Steve watch it. Alright everybody, I will let you go. Thanks very much. And I will see you soon, or I will see you in the Discord, or I will see you in... do follow all these other brilliant streamers as well. You'll see me in there tomorrow. I think tomorrow we may have Karen and Steve and Tom. So you'll see me around there. So take care, everyone. Probably should have worked at where the mouse was to click the button before I said take care. I'm not just looking around like an idiot. I'm trying to find the mouse. I've got 4 screens. I lose the mouse. Right, here we go.